Welcome back to What Do the Royal Spirits Think? This one is going to be a big one. We are dipping into the Duke of Windsor, Edward VIII, and we're going to see not only how he feels about his abdication, but how he feels about the royals right now and what he thinks of Megxit and the way his grandnephew is handling that wily Prince of England, Harry. We're going to be right back. All right, everybody, I am getting rave reviews on the channeling videos. You guys, I'm getting emails, I'm getting private messages. You all are loving it, and I'm so happy. I didn't think that you were going to like these really long, hour-long videos, but you're eating them up. So I'm going to keep them coming. So from now on, our series will always be a little bit of a meatier read. We're going to have a little bit of more time to spend with each other. And we are going to kick this one off with the Duke of Windsor. I'm really excited about this. I learned a lot of things about the Duke of Windsor in the course of doing some research for this. And I think we're going to get some very interesting answers out of him. So welcome. I'm Annabelle. I'm a tarot practitioner and I'm a psychic for over 35 years. I also do remote viewing, which we are going to do in here. We're also going to be channeling, which is letting the spirits come through and talk through us. So we have already heard from Wallis Simpson and Princess Margaret and of course, Queen Elizabeth's beloved Prince Philip. They all had some very interesting takes on this. We did a lot of chatting. So glad you guys are along on this journey. Grab yourself a drink. I got myself the ittiest, bittiest Coca-Cola can because I need a little caffeine to get through this one. I want you guys, don't forget that we have 2 more videos in this series coming up, but they are going to be members only videos. So we are going to channel Queen Elizabeth, oh, that poor lady, and the late great Princess Diana as well. We're going to see what both of those ladies have to say about Megxit and the state of things in the royal family. So there's a lot to unpack here. So you guys, we heard from Wallis Simpson already. And she has long been blamed for the king's abdication. I think her read was very interesting. She did come over as very kind of pragmatic, almost resigned to the state of things. And I think that there was a bit of that. So if you want to hear more from Wallis Simpson, let me know. If you want to hear more from the Duke of Windsor, David, otherwise known as Edward VIII, we can do that too. So just let me know in the chat. Don't forget to hit the like button. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I'm desperately trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. I'm this close to 9,000. We just have a little bit of a ways to go. And you, with your subscription, can help. So Edward VIII became became king in January of 1936, and he abdicated before that year was over. His younger brother unexpectedly became King George VI. His niece became Queen Elizabeth II. That's Edward VIII's niece, not King George. The entire future of the House of Windsor changed because of the way that Edward chose, or perhaps escaped, into a life with Wallis Simpson. He was eventually deemed the Duke of Windsor, but he did live most of the remainder of his life outside of Britain, not in exile. Well, it felt a little bit like exile. So now with Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth, the late great Queen Elizabeth II, with her extraordinary 70-year reign complete, Charles is on the throne, and William and Catherine are preparing for the next reign. Harry is attempting to find any foothold into some kind of life and is inching his way back into the family. Does Edward believe that Harry made the right choices? Does he recognize anything of himself in Harry? Does he recognize Wallis in Meghan? And what does the man who abdicated believe King Charles should do with his own wayward son? We're going to open up the channels. As always, I have my trusty obsidian sphere here from Otter Spirit. I think I want to experiment with some of their other spheres. This has actually given me great clarity in remote viewing, and it's giving me a grounding quality when I am channeling some of these spirits. So I'm not as depleted by the time I'm done with it. Think of it as a little fuel source for your psychic energy. But the obsidian for me actually keeps me grounded, keeps me settled. So there are links. My ambassador link is in the description of this video, along with 2 discount codes, Fortune 20 for 20% off any purchase, and Fortune 30 for 30% off any purchase of $99 or more. I wear Otter Spirit every day. You guys see them on my wrists, and I use them on my table every day as well. So hopefully you will add some of these tools to your toolkit. So let's talk about Edward before Wallis. So he was born in 1894, and he was known to his family privately as David. That is why he reverted to that name after abdication. He became the Prince of Wales in 1910 and was tremendously popular with the public. It was a great time, the Gilded Age, to be royal, affluent. It was a fantastic time. There were glamorous parties and lots of excess. The industrial age was booming. Things were happening. So in this particular glamorous, becoming modern society, this highly visible young prince, and he was pretty good looking, was taken in and loved by the public. He had extensive royal tours. That's one of the fun things about these princes of grand houses. They go on these royal tours and travel around to go see things. They sow their wild oats a little bit before they come home. And he was one of the first royals, as a result of this, to establish something of an international celebrity about him. So, but beyond the popularity, the members of his royal family and his household were a little bit worried about his resistance to expected routines, paperwork, tedious work, convention, and also the discipline that is truly expected of a future sovereign or a scion of power. So he had several significant relationships before Wallis, and these were with married women. He seemed to have a sweet taste for trouble. So Frida Dudley Warr and Thelma Furness were 2 of the mistresses that he had taken that were both married already. So Wallis was not this juicy forbidden fruit that he jumped on. This seems to be a pattern with our dear David trying to run around and have as much fun and excess as possible. It does not appear that Wallis was someone who fostered a dislike of restriction in Edward/David. It seems like it was already there. It seems that she had entered into the life of a man who was already having romantic relationships, having these emotional escape hatches and these dalliances. So did Wallis make Edward abandon his duty, or did Edward choose Wallis because she gave him somewhere else to run? Let's bring up the cards just for a second, and we'll take a look at that. We'll see what it has to say. Did Wallis make Edward abandon his duty? I think she was critical of the duty. Now, I do want to say that it is known that Wallis had urged him to not give up the crown, to not give up the throne, and to not marry her. She did not want to get married. It's almost like she married him out of obligation because he gave up the throne. So this says that she was fostering an environment that maybe was making him covet a less royal life. Is that correct? He could not see, he didn't want to rule. I'm going to say that right now. He did not want to rule. He did not want to do the hard work. He wanted to have the fun, very frivolous kind of prince here. So we're going to pull this down and let's talk a little bit more about him. So Wallis met Edward in 1931 through Thelma Furness. If you don't remember, that's one of the married ladies that he was already hooking up with. She was involved with the Prince of Wales. She was having a great time with them. And Wallis was married to her second husband, Ernest Simpson. Edward socialized with both Wallis and Ernest. So the couple, and as couples do, sometimes you do have those friendships. The Simpsons were invited into the social circle. They attended dinners, weekends away, shooting weekends, house parties, all of that. The relationship between Edward and Wallis seems to have intensified during 1934. This is while Ernest and Wallis are still married. Exactly how much Ernest knew, tolerated, or privately negotiated remains debated. Maybe we'll do a channeling with him as well. It's safer to say that there was a developing affair, not so much like it wasn't a throuple kind of thing, but it was a developing affair that I think Ernest chose to ignore so that they would have entree to some of these fun things. However, Edward started to increasingly shower Wallis with attention, travel, access to his money and jewelry. And by 1935, members of the household were very alarmed by Edward's emotional dependence on Wallis. They were concerned that the relationship could affect his judgment or that he was supplementing his judgment with the opinions of basically a nobody in British culture. Wallis didn't get divorced from Ernest until October 36. This is 1936. So this is when Edward was already king. And there is some discussion about that it was just a divorce on paper and that they were kind of conniving to go after the king. Let me know if you want me to do a channeling on all three of them. We'll see what it was like. I could do that maybe next week. So, when Edward decided that he could not live without Wallis, please remember that he said could not live, because he threatened that on occasion. Wallis did issue a statement, and she did want to kind of give up the whole situation. And Edward just was emphatically insisting that she was the only one for him. So Edward secretly proposed a morganic marriage. This was to the powers that be, where he would remain king, but Wallis would not become queen, and any children would have no succession rights. The British government, Dominion governments, both rejected the proposal. They did not think that it was appropriate. Again, you have to remember that Edward had no issue. He had no progeny. So this would have created a succession issue, even though there were, ample individuals around him that would have taken it. You want your king. The first thing your king should do is make a baby. So Edward did sign the instrument of abdication on December 10th, 1936. His three surviving brothers witnessed it. So after the abdication, Edward's brother, King George VI, the father of Queen Elizabeth II, worked to restore confidence in the monarchy. At his side, we had the Queen Mother, who also was working to reestablish a festive kind of mood into the royal family. Edward was created Duke of Windsor, and he and Wallis married in France in June of 1937. No members of the immediate family attended the wedding. Wallis thus became the Duchess of Windsor, but was denied an HRH style, which is a decision that remained a source of anger and resentment for Edward. Again, they lived largely outside of Britain. They did have a primary home in France. During the Second World War, Edward was serving as the governor of the Bahamas from 1940 until 1945. They had visited, and this is highly reported upon, they had visited Germany in 1937. You know what government was there, I can't say it. And they met with the Führer, and that was an enduring stain on his historical reputation. Apparently, he found a number of things in that government that seemed to appeal to him and, in his opinion, were applicable to British culture and government. So after the war, the Windsors returned to a largely social life, no real work of substance or anything in France. And Edward died in Paris in 1972. He was buried at the Royal Burial Ground at Frogmore. Wallis eventually was buried beside him. Wallis's end, just so that you guys know, was terrible. She was in the care of an individual who was not really taking care of her, but basically was bleeding the books, and she was in quite bad shape toward the end. So it's a little bit of a sad end. Edward, I think, had a better exit. He did have a visit from the Charles III. I'm not even sure what his title was at the time, but he did go visit him. And the Queen Elizabeth II, was quite gracious to Wallis when they had Edward's funeral. So you gotta give it for that. So so Edward's abdication has consequences far beyond his lifetime. When you think about it, the king, it's a tree. This, we veered off onto another branch. So after he abdicated, George VI became king. Princess Elizabeth became the heir presumptive. Elizabeth II reigned for 70 years. Charles III inherits the crown. William is now first in the line of succession. George, Charlotte, Louis follow William. Harry remains fifth, followed by Archie and Lilybucks. So the current positioning of that would be completely different. All of these people that we're talking about right now would be of very little consequence to the rule and the British royal family. Unfortunately, they all would be very, very inconsequential. Whatever, Harry would be like number 56. He'd be all the way down. So let's dip into Edward again. Let's bring up the card view again. And I'm just using the cards to spark off, and then we go into the channeling. So how does Edward understand himself now? So stripped of the romance and all the mythology and all the intrigue and questions and dalliances with German governments, did you ever genuinely want to be king? Yes. Yes, it was my fate. It was where I was supposed to be. But did you want to rule? I think I would have been fair and good at it. I think I probably would have erred on the side of caution more than people expect. Did you enjoy being the Prince of Wales more than you wanted the actual crown? Three of Pentacles. There were still restrictions on being the Prince of Wales. There were still restrictions that were troublesome. He couldn't do everything that he wanted. Did you want public admiration without institutional responsibility? Yes. He wanted to be a celebrity who could do no wrong. He wanted other people to do the hard work, the paperwork, all of that. Did you believe that the rules should have been bent because of your popularity? It was wrong, but I did believe that the rules should have been bent so that I could get what I wanted. What good is having the top job if one cannot do as they please and decide as they please? That's really the thing here, is that Edward/David, is insistent that he decides. He decides. It is his decision that is important. It is not the decision of this privy council or anything like that. It's me that decides. Did you consider yourself a modern person? Yes, he did. He thought that he was a progressive, modern person, a king for the new age. So, did you think that your younger brother was better suited to reign? No, but I just had to get free. I just had to get free from it. Just had to get out of there. So, was Wallis your great love or your great escape? This is terrible, guys. So, the way that he sees Wallis is the entire staff and retinue and every person that has ever loved or dedicated themselves to him wrapped up into one. She is the balsamic reduction of his royal life, and he wanted her to serve and be a true believer, and in exchange he would say that he loved her, that he could not live. She was an acquisition. She was what he considered, I know she was a handsome woman, but he considered her a beautiful jewel that was all his own and would provide all for him. That, and I think that is a very complicated kind of impression to put upon one person. She is responsible for everything. She's responsible for everything. So, let's see what Edward has to say. So, who really was Edward the man? He was complicated and conflicted and never really, this is a result, this is the Edward the man, the result at the end of it all. This is because he was never fully a prince, never fully a king, never fully a regular person. He was somewhere in between all of those things. He never really gets a foothold. What about the Prince of Wales? When Edward was the Prince of Wales, that was fun. That was a good time. What about Edward the King? That was a lot of work. There was always someone tapping on his shoulder, asking him to do something. What about Edward or David, the Duke of Windsor? Well, that was nice. That was nice. That was a better fit for him. A little bit of luxury. They didn't pay their bills a lot of the time. A little bit of luxury and a condensed kind of petite Versailles kind of approach. It was like a petite Versailles. What about posthumously? What does David's spirit think now? Nine of Cups. Hangman and the Sun. I realize now that the accident of birth for me was a terrible thing. It was a terrible thing. He did not love it. It was, there was little preparedness for the role. He says he just didn't have the head for it. He just didn't have the head for all of the, not politicking. He's not saying politicking. I can't quite get the word that he's saying. The it's not strategizing, but all of the back and forth that he had to do with everyone. He didn't like it. And there was like a catchphrase that they gave him when he was in conversations with heads of state, important people, prime minister, and oh yes, yes, there was like a tell that they gave him that he could always fall back and oh yes, and like he would nod, and then no, don't say anything after that, don't say anything about that. So he just didn't enjoy the big conversations. He didn't if there were ever a battle or something and he had to strategize like the response, he wouldn't be able to do it. He just send them over there. Where's their smallest force and send our biggest force there? Like that's kind of how he looks at it. So let's dip into the origins of this relationship with Wallis. And don't worry, we're going to get to the Megxit stuff, guys. Don't worry. So let's get it right out here. Was it a throuple? Was it a throuple? No, it was not a throuple. It was not a throuple. So what initially attracted David to Wallis? King of Cups. Hangman. Nine of Cups. I think this was a little bit of a challenge. I do think that she made herself available to him. I don't think that she was someone who kind of said no, like a lot, like this was, all fun and games. I do think that he saw something he liked. She was warm and did connect with him, but I think he was rebuffed initially, and she flirted with him, don't get me wrong, but I think the final closing of the deal, I think she rebuffed him, and I think that became his white whale that he had to get to. That's his white whale. He was determined to undo that rebuffing. So did she make you feel like a man versus a royal? Well, death comes to all. And I do think that was something that she would have to say. In the death card, in the Rider Waite, you see a king on the ground in front of death, and you also see another regular person, which is death comes to prince and paupers alike. We all wind up worm food at some point, and I think that she was very clear that death comes to all. We are all of the same carbon. So David, did you consciously pursue another man's wife? Did you consciously do that? Yes, and he's sorry, but he couldn't help himself. Like, I'm so sorry, dear. I'm just going to reach past these cucumber sandwiches and grab your wife's tit.
No problem.
No problem, sir. Just do that. Don't mind the tea. I'm so sorry, but what did Ernest, what did Ernest understand about this relationship? King of Wands. Oh, yes. Can't even imagine. Ernest, I think, had already, had his fill. of Wallis. I think they had done everything that could be done. Sorry, guys. And I think that he was just like, oh yes, I'm done with that one. You can have it, sir. That's totally fine. Take my leavings. Um, so Ernest, I don't think tolerated the relationship as much as he said, more time for me. Like I can just kind of do whatever I do. Did Ernest benefit socially from the situation? Yes, transformed. Um, and I do think that he got access to some other punani. I think he got access to other punani. What about financially? Was he given financials for this? I think they were gotten out of a couple of tight spots. There may have been some debts that they had, but nothing big, nothing really, really big. It was like little mini things. So when all this started, did Wallis intend to split up with her husband? It almost feels like everyone was running in and out of each other's bedrooms. Like like social parties for them. I feel like there's a lot of doors slamming and people are running hither and thither. I do feel like it was a little bit of a free for all in some of these social circles. Not all of them, but some of them. So did Wallis intend to leave Ernest? No, they were hanging out on the scene, having a good time, enjoying it. Did she think this relationship with David would become permanent? I don't think that she wanted it to be a permanent primary relationship. I think she was totally fine with having a supplemental relationship in addition to her husband's. I think that was it. So, David, were you more, and I'm sorry that I'm going back and forth between Edward and David. From here on out, I'm going to refer to him as David. David, were you more committed to Wallis than she was to you? Yeah, he was way more involved. And that happens. Like relationships are like there's always one that seems like they're punching above their weight or one that, could kind of walk from it and not have too many bad things happen. But this, I think he loved her way more than she loved him. Did you use emotional pressure to keep her in the relationship? Yes. Yes, and terrible stuff too. Terrible stuff. Did Wallis attempt to end the relationship? Yes, she had walked out and said she didn't love him. Oh, well, correction. She said, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. One of those. David, did you put her in a position where she could only marry you? That was the only way to go. Yeah. The only route is this way. Follow me, follow me, follow me to rescue. This was what was going on. He made it really impossible. How about Ernst? How did Ernst feel about all this? Did he feel relieved, betrayed? Like Six of Swords and Judgment. Ernst was like, thank God. So Ernst, did Ernst continue to collect monies? Did he get a dowry or any kind of installment plan for Wallis? He was still kept, but I think that there was almost like a blackmailing kept to it. You're still going to stick around. You're still going to come to our parties, aren't you, darling? Interesting. David, was Wallis still emotionally attached to Ernst? Four of Swords. Yes, but she didn't act upon it. He caught her crying a few times. I will say that. I know he said, I caught her weeping a few times after some sharp conversations. Weeping. So, did you abdicate for love? Or did you give up the crown because you couldn't live without her? Judgment? What is it? Queen of Swords. I didn't want it anyway. I'm not doing this. If these people don't want the woman I love, my wife, sounds like somebody else we know. I'm not giving them anything. I'm going to walk away. Without Wallis, he did give it up for her. I'm going to say I'm making the decision for him. I think he did it. Did you expect the public to rise up in your defense? Yes. Yes, he thought that the public would rise up and say, that's ridiculous. I think his expectation was to be tucked away on British soil, like tucked away and just kind of left to live out his days. You know, very similar to what he did in France, but I think he really expected to be at home. He made do with France. He wasn't too bummed out about being in France. I think the food was much better in his opinion. It was much fancier. But I do think that their life in France was different from Britain, but equally as luxurious. Did your popularity make you overestimate your political power? Yes. Yes. And it was within that echo chamber that he had made some of those decisions. David, had you had posed the popularity question to your people, would you have acted differently? He may not have done that. He may not have moved through with really pushing for reconsideration. Did you consider remaining king without Wallis? Six of Wands. Three of Wands. Yes, but they would not let me. I wanted to stay home. I wanted to stay as a counselor of state. But again, they would not let me. They said that I needed to go. He is under the impression that he has some really good ideas rolling around in his head. I don't think that he always does, though. So was Wallis free to choose to stay? No, the decision was never heard. So, did you understand that Wallis would be blamed for your abdication? That's alarming. It's almost as if he's like, yes, let them see. Let them see what is happening. Let them see the wedding and see how happy I am, how wildly happy I am now that I am no longer in the confines of this tremendously bad royal family. Let them see. Let them see what they've done. Did you trap her by naming her publicly as the woman you love? No, he doesn't think that he did. Did you ever acknowledge the burden that you placed upon her? He did. Was Wallis responsible for keeping you emotionally stable? No, she couldn't do that. She did not have the temperament for it. She did not have the temperament for it. When he flared up, she would exit. God, oh, you're being difficult again. She would just leave. And then he would yammer and get gobby with the staff. So did you see her as your wife, your caretaker, or a replacement monarchy? Replacement fan base. That's a replacement fan base. Replacement fan base, 5 of Wands. They're all excited. Everyone is flaring up and having a great time. There we go. So, did you ever apologize to her? Yes. And I gave her the best I could. I gave her the best I could. So, were they happy in the marriage? Was David happy in the marriage? Yes, there was plenty to do. It was simple thing. Simple thing. So who ran the household? Who was the more dominant one in the household? Was it you, David, or Wallis? Was it you? No. Was it Wallis? Look at that. Yeah, she's the one who kept everything easy, easy, easy. So did the marriage remain romantic? I think on his part, it remained luxe. I don't think this is like the great passionate romances that we see, like Bonnie and Clyde, Nicholas and Alexandra. I don't think it's that outwardly romantic. I think that this was a much more carnal relationship and that they kept things for behind the scenes. Their passions really became very intense behind the scenes. Romantic is not how I would describe it. So, did they regret not having children? No, I don't think so. Did she resent you for making her a villain of British history? She had things to say about it. She had things to say about it. If you could remain king and never marry her, what would you do now? He still would have left. He still would have left. Would have left with her. Good for you. Good for you, David. So, skip on over to Bertie and Elizabeth. Did you believe that George VI, Edward, your younger brother, did you think he was capable of being king? You were worried about it. Did you underestimate him? Not so much. Do you feel guilty for placing that burden on him? Some days I do. Were you jealous of the respect he eventually earned? It's kind of like I lent it to him. I lent it to him. Do you believe he treated you unfairly? 4 of Swords. It wasn't him. It wasn't him. He didn't have a choice. So he thought it was fair. Can leave that for there. So Queen Elizabeth. So Edward David's abdication transformed Princess Elizabeth from a relatively protected royal child into the future sovereign that we all know. Edward got to witness part of his niece's reign while still incorporated, and he's seen the rest of it while unincorporated. So what did you think of Elizabeth's reign? Queen of Pentacles. She did the nation well. Did you recognize a sense of duty in her that you did not have? Nine of Wands. She was more overt. His sense of duty was much quieter. Did her discipline expose your own weaknesses? It overshadowed his good points. Well, you know, if you're in the top job, you are going to be on display, and everyone didn't get to see the good things that I got to do. Do you envy the public affection she has? Not really. I don't think he has any ill will toward her. Do you feel guilty for what you gave her? No, she was a great leader. Do you feel your abdication saved the crown? Two of Swords. It could have gone in two different ways. He thinks he would have done it differently, but he would have maintained the crown. How did you feel about the level of compassion Elizabeth showed toward you? She actually did more than he expected. He was very pleased with what she had done. So after seeing her complete reign, do you regret giving up your own? No. Do you believe that the crown went to the correct branch of the family? Yes. Hard workers there. It's disruptive. Something's coming, and change is going to come. He's letting us know that there is a change coming. I hope it's not the Nostradamus thing. I know people are saying there's a whole Nostradamus thing. And now with the Rob Shooter book, everybody's worried. It's going to be Lily on the throne at some point, but I don't think so. All right. So Edward's view of Elizabeth II, Eight of Swords. She was the right one for the right job. She was always supposed to be destined there. What did she inherit from him? The anxieties that her father had, that Elizabeth did not have. What did she repair? The progression of the royal family to get too modern too quickly. She was an old-fashioned queen, and that was something that was good. She modernized what she needed to, but she kept the mainstays there. What did her reign prove? That there's more than meets the eye to the royal family. What's your regret, David, that he didn't work harder? Final message on Elizabeth. Fool 2.0. It was a reckless adventure that yielded a great leader. Wise words. So let's skip on over to the current monarch. Charles III became king upon Queen Elizabeth's death on September 8th, 2022. I can't believe it's 4 years already. I can't believe it's been 4 years. Edward, we're going to take a look at your grandnephew, who now occupies the throne that you abandoned. and we're going to ask you your opinion. So, do you, David, Edward David, do you think that Charles is properly prepared? Eight of Cups. He thinks that Charles should abdicate. Why? Because there are better hands that will manage this country. Holy smoke. Holy smoke. What is the problem with Charles? What is the problem with Charles, David? What is the problem with Charles? Six of Pentacles. Nine of Pentacles. He forgives to a fault. He forgives to a fault. That is what David is saying. I know where this reading is going to go, guys. So David says that King Charles is always willing to turn the other cheek and always willing to expose the vulnerable spots of the family by his generosity. I'm not saying that King Charles is bad at math, but he does have a tendency to be really generous with certain people. And I think we're zeroing in on Harry and Meghan. So does he have too much sentimentality for the role? 10 of Wands. Yep. You can't love everybody. You can't make everybody happy. You can't make everybody happy. So, David, do you think that Charles is functioning as a father and not a sovereign? He's not doing a good job as either. He is not looking at success for any of those roles because he's trying to succeed at all of them. You can't make everybody happy. In his attempt to preserve all of these competing relationships, he is about to destroy all of them. Edward, David, what do you understand about Charles' desire to reconcile with Harry? What do you understand about that? One, not thinking like a king. He's also emotional. So this is... David understands that Charles' desire to reconcile with Harry is he just wants to collect the set. He wants everybody on the same page. He wants everybody just to get along. And it doesn't work that way. You can't take people that can't stand each other, put them in the same room, and they're going to get along just because you want them to. They're still going to have their own experiences. Unfortunately, Charles is thinking like a father of an adult son. What is Charles functioning out of here, David? Is it love? Is it fear? Is it guilt? Is it legacy? Does he just want things to look right? Is he like an Instagram mom? What is Charles functioning out of, in your opinion, David? Happy family. The myth of the happy family where we all work together and get along just fine. We all got to get along just fine. And that's unfortunate. Charles just wants to wave a magic wand. It's not going to happen. Is he too soft with Harry? Uncle David says yes. Are there institutional dangers present as a result of this? Yes, but not like the destruction of the royal family. What David says is that it creates these loosey-goosey rules for everyone. And so now everyone can just act like an idiot. They can all, do whatever they want. Anybody can marry whoever they want. They can bring whoever they want into the royal family. It doesn't matter. Come one, come all. It's the exclusivity is gone. and Charles, even though it is a cloistered life and he does have some exclusivity, the things that he is doing is creating an environment where there will not be exclusivity later. David, do you think that Charles is managing Harry better than your father managed you? No. No. And there is a bit of, it's a different world. It's a much different world. There were different things that were at the disposal of people before. I think he's talking about the rod. Like, get the rod. Spare the rod and spoil the child. What would you advise your grandnephew, Charles III, to do about this Harry situation? Empress, Seven of Cups. Address the mommy issue. Fun coming from David. Address the mommy issue, because that's where it begins and ends with this one. The resentment that Harry has toward his father. The anger that Harry had. This is from David. The anger that Harry has for the press and for the men in gray suits is actually directed at his father. He will not direct it at him because he needs him to support him. That is from David. Harry's anger toward the media and toward the men in gray suits is really displaced anger that he aims at his father for not better protecting his mother, for not staying with his mother, for not pretending to have a happy family. That is really what it is. That's where it begins and ends, guys. So whatever therapy Harry's been in, he should get into some different therapy. So let's talk a little bit about Megxit, guys. We're going real long on this one. So Harry and Meghan stepped back as working royals in 2020. Buckingham Palace confirmed that in 2021 that they would not return as working members of the royal family. They scampered off to Canada, leaked a video on the Freedom Flight to California, Los Angeles, which just seems like the promised land for Harry. We're going to Los Angeles. What an idiot. They left behind royal life, left skid marks behind. Shocking that Meghan didn't leave a present a la Amber Heard in the Queen's bed. But what did Edward think? David. I'm calling him David. What did he think when Megxit was announced? Five of Pentacles. He's walking out the door. Four of Pentacles. You better have all your ducks in a row because this is going to be a different world, Buttercup. Different world. Did he see any similarities between their situation with him and Wallis and Harry and Meghan's? The combativeness and the inflexibility of those men in gray suits to not understand what fun is if it sits on your face and wiggles. And that's really the thing. David is like, if they just let them have more luxury and fun, they would have been fine and they would have just shut up. So, it's the men in gray suits. It's the people who were pulling the plug on the expenses. David, but honestly, like Meghan spent $1 million on her clothing that first year and she really didn't have enough events that she attended to justify that. Like, do you see anything wrong with that? Not our problem. The crown should take care of it. They should all be taken care of. Good for her. Good for her is something he says. Good for her. On a full complement of Louis Vuitton luggage. My cousin had that. Full complement of Louis Vuitton luggage. Shocking when I saw it. Like, where are we going? What did David think of the half in, half out proposition? Never work. Never work. Crown can't make money. He is adamant about that. The Crown can't make money. They can't have those kinds of associations like that. David, do you think that Megxit was planned or was it spontaneous? So I don't think it was so much planned as there was a spark. Somebody got in trouble. And again, I wonder if this was Meghan going to the theater and refusing to go to the Queen's meeting, emergency meeting that she called, and declining to meet with the Queen. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Queen Elizabeth, asked the favor of your presence at a meeting today. No, I have another engagement. Could you imagine? Who, the cheek on her? Somebody got in trouble and then they were out. They were out. And I do think that it was, well, if you're not leaving with me, we're getting divorced. We're getting divorced. Did Meghan threaten to divorce Harry if he did not escape with her? Yeah, you have to make up your mind because your choices are going to be limited. So, David, do you think Harry was foolish in this relationship with Meghan? Do you think he was foolish? Well, it doesn't get more foolish than 2.0 fool. So he thinks that Harry, and I think this too. I think Harry was trying to fly in the face of the girls that all said no. I think that Harry was trying to look at what I got. Remember, he said that in the meeting? Look at what I've got. Like, he thinks that she is the hottest thing ever. And I'm sorry, she's not. She's okay. She's not smoking hot. But this relationship, Harry was trying to fly in the faces of the girlfriends that were getting away and getting married and doing all the practical things. And he just wanted, this gorgeous gal on his arm. Look at how pretty my wife is. And I think that Catherine is 1,000 times prettier. I know all of you in the chat agree with me. Catherine is very pretty. I used to not like her upper lip, but she's got such a pretty smile. I'd like to see her have a little bit of a bigger lip up there, but please don't get any lip injections. My God, don't do that. What does Edward David think of Harry telling his story in Spare? Oh, it was a bad move. Why would you do that? Why would you ish where you eat? Why would you do that? It now gives everyone that's ever had an issue with the royal family the ability to say, I had that experience too. And I do think he was worried about the R word, the R word there. Now people are going to say that, and that's something that we've been fighting for centuries. That's something we've been fighting for centuries, darling. So, oof, 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 oof. So, David, do you see a little bit of yourself in Harry? No, no, we are different. We are different because I made my decisions. Harry reacted to situations. I made decisions. And Harry just reacted to different situations. That's interesting. That's an interesting take. So, does Harry have your emotional temperament? Unchanged, yes. Do both of you, David, in your observation of Harry, do you guys confuse like your personal moody unhappiness with institutional mistreatment? Yes. If I'm not happy, it's clearly your fault. Do both women, do both men need a woman to organize their emotional world or kind of cushion their emotional world? Yes. Yes, they need someone to bring them down. Do they both resent the heir to the throne? That was a tough question. I think that David likes the current heir to the throne. Um, don't worry about whether Harry resents the heir to the throne. I think David likes the heir to the throne. Does David think Harry deserved applause for leaving? Does he deserve? No. No, he does not. You leave it all behind. You leave it all behind. It should be solemn as you exit. Does David think that Harry underestimated the royal family's ability to endure without him? Yes. Yes. Is Harry self-aware, David? Do you think Harry is self-aware in this situation? Absolutely not. Is Harry now dependent on retelling this escape from Britain story? Is that his whole story? Yes. How he thwarted the crown and how unjust it was and how all of his power has been taken away from him. And it's the end. So where does this leave him? Very unhappy. Very unhappily Harry. Very unhappily Harry. Edward, do you think that Harry is becoming the Duke of Windsor 2.0? Is he the Duke of Windsor 2.0? Is that what he turned himself into? Yes. Yes, he's the new Duke of Windsor. Let's see what Edward's opinion of Meghan is. Let's see what his opinion of Meghan is. Edward, do you see Wallis and Meghan? Some, but it's an improvement. It's a development of her. Wallis likely would have used social media to the extreme. She would have been using it. Also, Wallis would have been craftier about the secret messages that she leaked to the media. There would have been less tracks following back to the source, like Meghan's 5 Friends and People magazine. Does he believe that she married Harry for love? No. What was she relieved from? The 5 of Swords, from wherever her world was going. Are the comparisons of Meghan to Wallis fair? Are they fair? No. Who are they not being generous with? Wallis? Meghan. Wallis was much more strategic than we know. And that Wallis was more strategic than Meghan is. Meghan is reactive. That is the difference. So the comparisons, he thinks that Wallis was much smarter and understood how the mechanisms worked in those royal circles, whereas Meghan completely didn't know. Wallis came in and was playing by the rules. Meghan came in and tried to rewrite the rules. So, very interesting. Do you think that Meghan controls Harry? That's part of the problem, is that Meghan also wants Harry to ultimately make her decision. And I do think that she uses some things to soften him up. This Three of Cups, when we get it in reverse, it's usually excessive usage of things. And I think she does use that to keep him compliant, confused, and a little bit dreamy. And I think David agrees with me. Is Meghan more ambitious than Wallis? Yes. Is she more independent than Wallis? No. No. Meghan has a lot of people that support her in her moments that she needs it. Wallis would suffer in silence at times. She had her close confidants, but she would suffer in silence a lot of the time. Wallis knew how to keep her mouth shut. Meghan does not. Does Edward have a warning for Meghan? Does he have a warning for Meghan? Certainly this warning about excess usage for some people that are involved in the situation. This is a detriment. This is a problem. Also, he's like, give up the businesses. Like, why are you even trying? Like, why are you doing that? It's taking away time from your leisure time. You're not enjoying it the way that you should. Let it go, as ever, as never. Let it fade into the distance. Stop fighting for the things that you are not getting. You can't keep fighting. So the fights against the media, the fights against trying to sell whatever she's selling. Stop doing that. Clear your plate and get back to work on like the 3 things that will work well for you and your family. The 3 things. So we're getting into Megxit now, guys. We're at 1 hour and 12 minutes, and we're getting to Megxit. 1 hour and 13 minutes. I hope you're still with me. I hope your tea is still warm. If you were having tea, I hope you made a pot. We're getting into Megxit. So, David, Harry and Meghan are allegedly back in country. Allegedly buying a grand property in the Cotswolds, someplace according to some. Possibly a tidy townhouse in London to others. I think it's going to be in the Cotswolds. My psychic opinion. David, did Harry genuinely want to return? Yeah, he's exposed. He's like a fish. I've said this. He's a fish out of water everywhere he goes. What's Harry's main motivation? Five of Wands, guys. Remember Meghan said something about being in the prove it game? Harry's in the prove it game right now. He's in the prove it game. How dare he buy a $12 million house? 12 million pound house. How dare he? This is truly so insulting. Harry's out of money. And he's out of options. And he had to get back to his room. Like this is like a little kid. This is like, somebody who's taken somebody off the earth plane. They run back to their room. Like, if I just sit here, like, we'll be fine. So what about Meghan? Did Meghan want to return? Yes, that is a yes. Why? Give me a why. Seven of Wands. She's not going to have to worry about those ducats anymore. The ducats are going to be taking care of themselves. She does not have to pay the bills here because this isn't her country. This isn't her problem. Housing them in England is not her problem. That's Harry's money. I wouldn't be surprised if Harry's buying this house and mortgaging it on the trust fund from his mother. I think this is his mother's gift to his family. David, is Harry borrowing against his trust fund for the house in England? No. Is the king giving him the money for it? Oh, damn it. Hierophant is seat of power. David thinks that that's unfair, but is not surprised that the king is doing it. And not surprised that this will upend the apple cart. David, why would the king do this? To bring the two parts back to heel. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. This is a foolish endeavor. So, David, do you think that Harry's return is permanent? Do you think it's permanent? Yeah, but he's going to have his nose out of joint. He's just going to be like, oh, I can't believe that I've got to live in this lovely home. That's really it. Like, he just needs to be stashed away someplace. David, your feeling on that? What do you think Harry should do? Do you think Harry should be back in England? Like, what do you think he should be doing with his world? David says he knows what will make him happy. Harry knows what's going to make him happy. He also says that Harry is not happy now. And Harry needs to grab his balls and say what he wants to do what he wants to do. You know, he's a curmudgeon. He's a young curmudgeon. Like, I would expect him to be like 70 years old for how bickery and miserable he is. David, will they stay in this property? Will this become the property that Harry lives in? I don't think so. I feel like it's a very temporary location. Is this the property that they're going to stay in? Knight of Wands. No, they're not going to stay there. They will move on from this one. This will be just one of their properties. David, what do you think is going to happen after this one? Judgment, Six of Cups, Queen of Pentacles, Two of Pentacles. I don't think she gets the house if they split. I don't think that's the plan. But I do think if they split, he winds up going into behind the castle walls. That's what I think David is telling us. If they split, Harry's going to go behind the castle walls. He will be allowed to get an apartment at Windsor or Kensington or wherever. He will be able to get an apartment there. What does David make out of these kids? What about these kids? There's a lot of problems with that. Look at, we keep getting the same cards, guys. We keep getting the same cards. I'm shuffling them. You're seeing it happen. So there's a lot of conflict about the kids. They are a good workforce. They would be good components, but I think there's too much mystery behind them. If they can erase the mystery, I think that they are better workers. So, oof. So David, what lesson should Harry know from your experience? What should Harry know? Don't leave again. There is no other return. This is the he's in the pocket. Stay put for now. If you leave again, you will not be able to come back. You will not be able to recover from this. This is your second chance. This is your only second chance. And there's all of this stop talking. Just stop talking. Just stop telling everyone about your misery, your movements. David, what do you think Harry should do in regards to his wife? Six of Pentacles. Give her as much as she wants, because the Empress is in reverse. Give her as much as she wants and make her happy. And then you can kind of tuck her away someplace else. Do you think that it's good that they are already talking about Meghan doing 6 months in California and wherever the other 6 months? Do you think it's good that they're going to be separated? This is a good arrangement. So this is, I do think, a little bit of a convenient marriage. I'm going to use that term. I think it's going to be convenient. They don't have to get divorced and they don't have to create a settlement. And they can just kind of go about their business and have their own thing. I think Edward suggests, David suggests, go about your business, have your affairs, do whatever you're going to do, raise the kids together. You don't have to do it under one roof. You don't have to do that. David's response to a lot of things is just make it easy on her. I think I am going to leave that there because we went 1 hour and 20 minutes. Holy crow, guys. So, I hope you like this. I have a lot more questions that I was going to ask of the Duke of Windsor. A lot of questions. We were going to jump into all of the other stuff about the Waleses and everything. But I think we've had enough of Edward VIII. If you guys want me to unpack more questions, drop them down below. I'll either do them in shorts. I don't know what I'm going to do. David, his brother was the wartime king, and his niece gave the monarchy 70 glorious years of service. Charles is getting the crown late in life and having some adult issues. William is awaiting the crown with Catherine beside him, and everyone is very, very excited about that. And Harry is now discovering that leaving the institution does not necessarily mean that you are free from it. So I think Edward's abdication was one that was complicated. I think that Harry's abdication was bratty. David had a little bit of a bratty feel to it as well. But I think that the time was different and that David could still carve out a pretty amazing existence for him and Wallis, despite being pariahs of the royal circles. Harry and Meghan, are they carving out a great life for themselves? I don't know. We can't figure out where all their money is coming from, and we can't figure out how they afford to live. We will now see it because they are going to be in England. They are going to be in a smaller microculture of the British culture. And despite their screams for privacy and leave us alone, they're still telegraphing where they're going to be and when they're going to be. And their ancestors will continue to look down on them and pass judgment. Let me know if there's anybody else that you want to see who is going to take a look at Megxit with a historical lens. I hope you guys loved this series. I hope you enjoyed it. It did take a lot of work, but it's work that I like. Let me know if you want to continue to see things like this. In the meantime, membership, you guys are getting 2 more. You're getting Queen Elizabeth and you're getting Diana, Princess of Wales, what they think about Megxit. We're going to unpack it the same way we did with this one. So it'll be a nice, meaty time. Make sure you make that pot of tea. And I will see you guys in the future. And if you guys want to watch those other 2 videos, you can become a member. There's membership link in the description of this video. I'll see you in the future.